All right, so we just finished up doing rectangles and parallelograms, which was not too bad. So now the other shape we're going to deal with are triangles. So let's do that. All right, triangles. The formula for an area of a triangle is really simple. And the best way to think about it is think of it in terms of a rectangle, right? So if you think about a rectangle, right, you don't have to draw this, you can just watch here. But if you think about a rectangle or a square, if I was to cut it in half, right down the middle like this, I'd end up with a triangle. Okay, I know it didn't look very pretty, but that's what it is, right? A triangle. So if I took out this part right here, I'd end up with a triangle. So how did I get that? Well, I cut the rectangle in half. Well, just like that, then our formula is this. Area is equal to base times height divided by 2, right? Because a triangle is half of a rectangle. A triangle is half of a rectangle. So we're going to simply divide by 2. Let's do an example here. And well, you'll see where it gets a little bit tricky. Right? So let's say we have this as an example. We have a triangle here. Okay. And this is going to be 8 centimeters. And this right here is going to be 5 centimeters. And this is going to be 6 centimeters. Okay, so here's where things get tricky. Okay. Remember, a base and a height have to be 90 degrees with one another. Okay. A base and a height always meet at 90 degrees. So wherever you find the 90 degrees, okay, wherever you find the 90 degrees, those two lines are your base and your height. The 8 is your base, the 5 is your height. The 6 does not matter for this calculation. It matters overall, but it doesn't matter for this calculation. Okay. So that's where things are tricky. Kind of like the parallelogram. That's why I emphasize really about finding the 90 degrees and being with the height. It's really about finding that height, and that's the key part. So let's do this. Let's plug that in the formula. So again, formula is base times height. Remember to divide by 2. If you just do base times height, you're doing like a rectangle. But remember, this is half of a rectangle. So here we go. I'm going to say the base was 8. The height was 5. And then remember, you need to divide by 2. Okay. All right. So base times height divided by 2, 8 times 5, which is 40, divided by 2, which is equal to 20 centimeters squared. Okay. Squared because it is area. Let's try another one of these. Okay. Let's try another triangle problem, just because these ones are the ones that are a little bit more confusing. Let's say we had a triangle that looks more like this. Okay. And let's say this was 5 inches and this is 10 inches. And then what you're going to see on these is you're going to have to see a 90-degree angle with a dotted line. Dotted because it's not really part of the triangle, but we need that height. Okay. It's kind of like whenever, if you ever played limbo before, right? You have to like go underneath the bar, right? Your height is just your highest point. Whenever you're bending over, it's your highest point there. Okay. So we're not counting with the slant. We want to know from the ground to your highest point. So in this case, let's just make up a number here. How about 4.6? So let's go ahead and find this area. Okay. And again, always focus on the 90-degree angle. Okay, do you guys got it? We got what the area of this triangle is? The most common mistake is people just multiply 5 by 4.6. They'll say, oh, it's just 5 times 4.6, right, Mr. Leon? Not quite. Remember, it's a triangle, so triangles are half. You have to divide by 2. Here we go. Let's do it together. So 5 times 4.6 divided by 2. Okay, put that in your calculator. Again, I don't want you doing this by hand. Put in your calculator, and you end up with 11.5 inches squared. Sound good? Does that make sense? So again, make sure you're finding the height by finding the 90 degrees, and then make sure you are dividing by 2. That's how you have to do this triangle math. Okay? Triangle math. Another problem I want you guys to try and do with these is a little bit more complicated, but very similar, which is what I'm calling find the shaded region. Find the shaded region. Find what's there. Sometimes we have shapes, and the shapes have holes in them. So we're going to talk about what we do with a shape when the shape has a hole in it. What we're going to do. And the concept is very simple. It makes sense logically. Think of a donut. Okay. Hopefully you already had lunch. You're not going to be too hungry here. Think of a donut, right? If I want to find out how much space the donut takes up, right? What I would do is I would take the area of the big donut, the big outer circle, and then subtract away the hole, right? Subtract away what's missing. And you'll see, well, of course, because that's just air. There's a hole there. You take what's there, you subtract what's not there. We're going to do the same thing with these types of problems. Right? So I'm going to draw a triangle, a right triangle. I'm going to draw a little triangle inside of it because I'm like cutting a hole out. Okay. Let's just put some numbers here. Let's say this is 12 and this is 10. We'll say meters. And let's say that this is 6 and 5. And I want to know what the shaded region is. And when I say shaded, I'm going to shade it in green here. So it's pretty clear which ones I'm doing, which part I want. All right. So I've got a big triangle. I've got a small triangle. I want to find out just the green part. Just the green part. They do this all the time if you think about it, right? If it's kind of like, if you think about your room, right? Like how much carpet do you need? Well, if you have something that's kind of sticks out, you don't need carpet in that spot, right? Or if you're going to vacuum around it, you can vacuum around things. So you don't need to cover everything there, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Remember, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to say it's going to be the big triangle minus the small triangle. Will get me the area that's left. Yeah? So let's go ahead and do big triangle minus small triangle. Let's find the area of the big triangle first. I've got base times height, 12 times 10, and these should be right angles so you guys can see there, divided by 2. Yeah? So 12 times 10 is 120, divided by 2 is 60. Minus the small triangle, which is 6 times 5 divided by 2, with a minus sign in between. Six times 5 we know is 30, divided by 2 is 15. So what is the final area that I have here? The green part, the shaded part, the part that has color, 60 minus 15, which is 45 meters squared. Does that make sense? Yeah? Just cut out the part that you don't need, right? You're cutting it out. You're saying, okay, I have a big triangle, I can subtract away the small triangle, and I'm exactly where I need to be there. Let me give you guys one of those, and then we'll kind of move on here. Let's do the triangle facing the other way. Let's say this is 13. Let's say this is 14.2 inches. And we'll say that this is 8 and 7. And then my shaded part is the same here. Okay, go for it. Can you please find me the area? And if you're really good with your calculator, you can actually do it all in one line and just press equal once. All right, and you can put in the chat once you think you got it. Yep, that's good, Nee. All right, anyone else put in the chat once you think you got the answer? Once you think you figured out what the shaded region is? Find the area of the shaded part. Yes, very good. Good job. Good job, Jenny. Good job, Kelly. All right. Anyone else? Okay, here we go. So the way I see it is I've got a big triangle, which is 13 by 14.2 divided by 2. There's my big triangle. Make sure you divide by 2, okay? If you don't divide by 2, then if you just do 13 times 14, you're going to get a bigger number. Okay, so 13 times 14.2 divided by 2 is 92.3. How about the small triangle? 8 times 7 divided by 2, which is 28. And then remember, I got to subtract these, right? So 92.3 minus 28 is 64.3. Now, if you got 128.6, you forgot to divide by 2 on your triangles, right? So that's the big thing about triangles. Make sure you divide by 2. The formula says base times height divided by 2. Remember, it's not as big as a rectangle. A triangle is half of a rectangle. So that's the big thing. There's 2 big things you have to remember when you're talking about triangles. Okay? You have to remember that you're using, that it has to be the 90 degrees, right? Whatever has the 90 degrees, that's your base and your height. And then you have to remember to divide by 2, okay? After you multiply the base and the height. So again, the formula is right there. Base times height divided by 2. Very important that you understand that. Again, take the base and the height, which has to be 90 degrees, and then divide it by 2 to get your area, right? If you forget to divide by 2, that's the biggest mistake, is people either don't use the right height, or the other biggest mistake is they forget to divide by 2. Okay? So that is